continent. During the current period, units of the Defence Force participated in rescue missions of one kind or the other, including aircraft accidents and fire disasters. This year, the Department of Defense will provide a comprehensive departmental cyber warfare strategy and sensor strategy to the JCPS cluster of ministers for approval. We are seized with these matters of cyber security in our country. The new HR strategy has been completed and maps out the rejuvenation of the Defence Force. However, due to the reduced HR budget allocation, the new recruits intake is expected to decrease in size, thus negatively affecting force rejuvenation. This is exacerbated by the high rate of natural attrition, which is about 3,500 persons per annum. For the reduction in the aggregate expenditure ceiling, the department's budget for compensation of employees was reduced by 1.9 billion in the financial year 2017-18. Chair, the Department of Defense has kept true to its approach of a layered defense through a substantial footprint of defense attachés. The SANDF has and will continue to deploy over the current medium-term expenditure framework a complement of 44 defense attachés, 10 of which cover 12 SADC countries on a residential and non-residential basis, 13 in the rest of the continent, and 21 in the rest of the world. By the end of January 2017, the department had a total of 40 female uniform members in command positions, and out of a total of 225, being 17%. The percentage of female generals is gradually increasing from 16% in 2013 to 19% in 2017. It is envisaged over this financial period that a total of 11 female defense members will be deployed as defense attachés. We'll continue to make progress, a steady progress in this regard. The current regulations for the Reserve Force have been revised and are aligned to meet new DoD requirements and will be shortly promulgated in the Government Gazette. In addition, we commit ourselves to overseeing name changes in certain Reserve Force units. The South African National Defence Force Education Trust, based on voluntary contribution from members of the public, was established in October 2013, and since then has awarded bursaries to 90 beneficiaries. We seek the support of Parliament, honourable members, to translate this fund into a formal fund of the department, supported from the defence allocation. It is unfortunate and embarrassing that we do not have an institutionalized system where orphaned children of Defence Force members rely on the state to provide for educational support. The Armed Scores turnaround strategy has resulted in a number of African countries showing interest in using Armed Scores services. Furthermore, AMSCO is registered as a strategic supplier with the UN procurement to ensure the increased participation of a South African defense industry in the supply of their requirements. AMSCO remains committed to providing military veterans support in various areas such as economic empowerment, corporate social investments, skill development, as well as employment. Transformation of the defense industry remains a critical strategic goal. In this regard, we established a National Defense Industry Council last year to facilitate a platform for government support and repositioning of the defense industry. The NDIC has already developed the Defense Industry Strategy and the Defense Industry Charter, providing pathways for transformation and growth of the defense industry, paving the way for women, youth, military veterans to participate in this industry. The charter has been submitted to the Minister of Trade and Industry to initiate the process towards publication and comment. It is our intention to officially launch the charter in June of this year. To enhance the Land 1 Defense Program, a partnership of DoD, AMSCO, CSIR, and DINEL has taken the initiative to locally build a multi-purpose support vehicle called Truck Africa. Apart from creating jobs, this initiative will help develop skills led by the local defense industry. A prototype of Truck Africa has been produced with production planned to begin in the midterm. The AAD 2016 was the most successful to date, and for the very first time, the AAD promoted Africa's defense capabilities through Africa Unity Pavilion, showcasing the technology products and services of the continent. The total impact of AAD 2016 to the economic output is in the region of 1.1 billion, with 146 million contribution to South Africa's tax revenue. More than 2,400 jobs were created during this period. During 2016, the Office of the Military Ombudsman received 276 new complaints. A further 118 were carried over from the previous financial year. A total of 198 of those were finalized. The Office of the Ombudsman will host the 10th International Conference of Ombuds Institutions for the Armed Forces in June this year. We also announced the appointment of the Deputy Military Ombuds, Ms. P.R. Masuta. Chair, honorable members, I wish to congratulate the Defence Force Service Commission on the successful hosting of the recent Civil-Military Relations Seminar. Since 2014, the Defence Force Service Commission undertook 23 consultative visits to SANDF units to interact with SANDF members across all rank levels on their conditions of service. During this 2016, a number of recommendations to improve their conditions were processed. Such recommendations include the decoupling of salary from rank, the review of the military skills development program, and pronouncements on the improvements to living quarters for our soldiers. The turnaround strategy initiative introduced 2 years ago to assist the Department of Military Veterans to deliver on its mandate in more effective and efficient manner is beginning to yield concrete positive results. Furthermore, the DMV managed to spend 85% of its allocated budget in 2016-17 financial year, as opposed to almost 60% expenditure during 2015-16 year. The DMV management team is now hard at work to put in place the necessary systems, processes, as well as policies to ensure that all 622 million rands allocated are spent prudently. The long overdue process of amending the Military Veterans Act is now firmly on course and will be put before Parliament during the course of this financial year. Honorable members, the budget allocation for the entire vote in the financial year 2017-16 is 48 billion, which is approximately 1% of the GDP. The MTF allocations indicate that for financial year 2018-19, our budget will decline to less than 0.98 of the GDP. These figures indicate a persistent decline of the defense budget. Given the planning that has gone in embedding our change programs into our normal APPs for both departments, we have deemed this year the year of change. Despite the challenges we have outlined above, we are not planning to fail. We need your support in this regard, and I thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me also request our invited guests and our distinguished visitors that they can participate fully in the chamber by listening only. By listening only, no clapping of hands, no booing, just to listen attentively for what the debate is all about. Please, distinguished guests, assist us to do so. Honorable Minister, we would have requested you also to ask our mother, Mayor Shope, also to rise, just to stand up for us to see. Mayor Shope, if you are around, please, may you rise just for us to see you. Thank you very much, Honorable Stan Mutimen.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Nosiviwe, Mapisa Ngakula, Deputy Minister, Kebi Mapazwe. And Minister, let me join you in saluting the military veterans up there, especially the Spolilo and Wange battle hero, Braik Mapoto. Halala, Braik Halala. Thank you very much. And to the Cuban team, I'll say to you, Hamista Compañero. Thank you very much. And all the guests. The Honorable Chairperson, the ANC supports this budget vote. This year's budget vote debate takes place against the background of profound challenges in the global arena, on the African continent and domestically. With the worldwide slowing down of economic growth, the increase in global insecurity, the disruption caused by the cyber attacks, our world is becoming more complicated and challenging. This is not only calls for us to be prudent and cost-effective with the utilization of our ever-decreasing resources, but also to be innovative and to show necessary leadership required. As the Portfolio Committee, honorable members, Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, we have the responsibility to oversee the Department of Defense, the Department of Military Veterans, ARMSCOM, the Castle Control Board, and the Military Ombud. We ensure that they are being held accountable and are complying with the relevant prescripts through regular reporting and committee oversight visits. We value their cooperation and compliance with their respective legislative mandates. We commend them for overall achieving their respective objectives and encourage them to continue on this positive trajectory despite the resource constraints. The committee has expressed its concern around the continuous decrease in the defense budget. This year, it equates to a decrease of 3.17% in real terms and adjusted for inflation. If one adds what is required to fund only milestone 1 of the 2015 defense review, which is around 15 billion, to arrest the decline of defense capabilities, we need to acknowledge the financial constraints under which the Department of Defense is operating. For this reason, we urge the department to speed up the development of the funding model to allow our committee to engage with it and assist where possible. The fact that the department is required to shut around roughly 9,000 personnel in this financial year is concerning. While it was indicated that this will not be possible and that it will likely result in overspending on this item, we encourage the department to enhance its interactions with National Treasury and the Department of Public Service and Administration to alleviate this challenge. In the same vein, we would like to encourage the department to up its game with border safeguarding to further enhance its fight against cross-border crime and protecting our landline borders. We further implore the department to pay more attention to the health support of regular force members and in particular to military veterans. These military veterans, Honorable Chairperson, deserve to be looked after in a proper manner, given their sacrifices for our hard-fought democracy. If one has regard to the various activities of the Department of Military Veterans, and especially the delivery of benefits to military veterans, we commend the department for the progress it has been making over the last few months. The sterling work done by the Turnaround Strategic Initiative team as well as the Acting Director General, is of particular relevance in this case. While dismayed by the slow progress with housing in the past financial year, the non-delivery on subsidized public transport, we believe that this is being turned around. We are encouraged by the progress with bursaries, health provision, and especially the social relief distress grants. Further, the numerous planned events to honor and memorialize fallen heroes, such as the 35th anniversary of the Maseru massacre, the 50th anniversary of the Wankie and Spolilo battles, and the 30th anniversary of the Battle of Quito Carnaval, are welcome, as it is indeed incumbent on us to pay homage to our fallen heroes who made this democracy possible. We need, however, also express our concern on issues such as last year's spending patterns, the ICT challenges, slow progress with MPET assessments, and the filling of vacancies, as well as the finalization of the skills audit. The committee appreciates the hard work by AMSCO to achieve a clean audit in the last financial year and urge the corporation to maintain this audit outcome going forward. We'd like to encourage, thank you very much. We'd like to encourage it to further enhance its efforts to develop alternative revenue options for itself as well as the Department of Defense. The management of the dockyard is a concern, as the maintenance and repairs of the Navy's vessels should be one of the highest priorities to support inter alia, Operation Pakisa, and safeguard our territorial waters. The Castle Control Board has improved in support to military veterans, as well as increasing its image through positive coverage worldwide. Concerning, however, is the lack of positive results of the revenue optimization plan against the background of a request for additional funding from the Department of Defense. Our concern with the Office of the Military Ombudsman revolves mainly around its institutional independence and challenges around the implementation of its recommendations. We hope that with the processing of the legislative amendments, many of these issues will be addressed. In conclusion, let me state that our committee takes its responsibility to support the two departments, three entities very seriously. The development of dashboards and the regular reporting on it, as well as requests to reprioritize their activities, form part of our committee's oversight over the Department of Defense and Military Veterans. In addition, the reprioritization of defense activities also forms part of the issues we are targeting to ensure even more effectiveness and efficiencies. Finally, our well wishes to all those soldiers, men and women in uniform, who protect and safeguard our beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mutumela. Honorable Marin.
Chairperson, our Constitution confirms in Article 202, and I quote, "The primary object of the Defence Force is to defend and protect the Republic, its territorial integrity and its people in accordance with the Constitution and the principles of international law regulating the use of force." In the light of the constant budget decrease, especially in defence real terms, of which is about 12%, it is becoming ever more difficult to simply maintain the Defence Force we have, let alone support the Defence Force envisaged in the 2015 Defence Review. Similar to last year, we still are not able to fund Milestone 1, which is only to arrest the decline. In order to maintain a reasonable Defence Force, a year-on-year budget of at least 2% of GDP must be maintained. This has not happened and is not foreseen over the medium term, although it did not deter the Minister, Cabinet and the Defence Force from retaining their unrealistic ideological objectives, operational plans and international commitments. Our GDP of below 1% and the national priorities of government do not provide for their ideal Defence Force. There is a disjunction between the Defence Force government wants on paper, what we can afford, and what we actually need to comply with our constitutional obligations. Keep in mind, we have no warfare threat at our borders or against our integrity. The Defence Force has confirmed we have a window period of between 3 and 5 years to address the decline in the Defence Force capacities before the capabilities will be depleted. Some of the shocking or the current shocking national deployable capacity statistics they have shared with us is we have only two C-130 aircraft at 28 Squadron, of which one is mostly out of service. Those are for the transport of troops, equipment and paratroopers. We have 0 aircraft at 35 Squadron, which is responsible for maritime patrols, protection and sea search and rescue missions. We have only 5 medium transport helicopters, 2 Rafale helicopters, 1 naval vessel, 2 battalions for peacekeeping missions, 1 level 1 medical capacity. For one military hospital alone, we need more than 1 billion rand to bring that up to standard. We have only 15 sub-units for border patrols, while we actually require about 21. National Treasury has indicated the funds requested will not be approved, that the DoD must cut their cloth to size and operate within the means of our economy. They made no secret that it appears that the department do not intend to comply with their recommended austerity measures. Most notable was the directive that the human resource spending must be reduced from 57% to 40%. The current budget funding requirements are unaffordable. The budget allocation of 48 billion will only fund the first 2 of the 5 phases to complete milestone 1. For the rest, which the DoD requires a further 55 billion rand for this year, we know the economy cannot afford this. Let's be honest, Minister, we must reprioritize and restructure the Defence Force to balance what we can afford with what we need. Both you, Cabinet and the Defence Force must realise that your signed-off and idealistic plans are unaffordable, unrealistic and unachievable. Non-essential costs and commitments must be eliminated ASAP. One avoidable expense is the current leasing of private aircraft, both for the President and your comfort, and to transport our troops and equipment to the DRC. How many more flying hours and funds must be wasted this way? A non-essential expense and requirement is our favourite aircraft in Kwazi. Contrary to their arguments, this luxury jet has been fully operational. While neither the President, not the Deputy President, nor you, Minister, have used Inkwazi since at least the end of June last year, at least 50 flights were, however, undertaken to Langebaan, East London, Overberg, Bloemfontein, Hoedspruit, Durban, etc. Who is using it, Minister? The argument that this is for pilot training cannot be justified. If there's no need, if there is no VIP use for this aircraft, why train pilots to fly it? An unused, fully operational presidential jet is a luxury, a showpiece, and assigned to keep up with the Joneses. We cannot afford, Minister. At the same time, you have expressed the appetite for yet another new regional VIP jet, which begs the question, why not rather sell Inkwazi or utilize it for the regional flight requirements? We cannot afford both, as it will equate to reckless trading. Minister, the DA wants to recommend the following, which will support a sustainable and optimal funded Defence Force. Reorganise, reprioritise and restructure the Defence Force based on the budget, the projected GDP and the constitutional mandate. Focus on border protection, both land, sea and air. Support economic development and secure our ocean economy's potential, thus contributing to helping the 9 million unemployed. Comply with the international obligations and treaties with regards to maritime patrol and protection. Re-establish discipline as non-negotiable. Reduce the HR component to 40% of budget so that at least 80% of the soldiers are younger than 40 years. The current scenario of the majority being older than 45 years compares very badly. An exit mechanism must be developed. Rationalise the Defence Force in support of our primary constitutional responsibilities with a focus on a secured infantry capacity. When supporting UN peacekeeping missions, we must use fully serviceable assets and ring-fence the refunds for Defence Force purposes only. Gebruik krijgkor en verkoop onderbenutte bates en toerusting, insluitend die meeste van ons hawk- en Gripen vegvliegtuie, die duikbote en veral in Kwasi. Die president en die leiers behoort met SAA te vlieg. Skaf toerusting en bates aan ter nakoming van ons primêre grondwetlike verpligting, byvoorbeeld skepe vir die vloot vir die effektiewe bediening van ons oseane, patrollievliegtuie vir die 35 eskader wat nodig is vir die see soek- en reddingsoperasies en ter ondersteuning van ons see-ekonomie. Vliegtuie vir 28 eskader vir die vervoer van soldate en toerusting en skakel soos kostes vir gehuurde vliegtuie uit. Verseker diensbare toerusting en voertuie vir ons vredesoperasies en die bewaking en patrouillering van ons landsgrense. Improve our cyber warfare capabilities, specifically the use of drones for land border patrol and protection. Benut die kundigheid van krijgkor meer om ons verdedigingsbedryf te laat groei en ontwikkel, sodat die 9 miljoen werkloses volhoubare werk kan kry. While we require a budget closer to 2% of GDP, Minister, can this budget proposals, however, not represent value for money and in the best interest of our citizens? Voorsitter, op 'n positiewe noot. Almal moet nog net vir 2 jaar vasbyt. Daarna sal 'n DA-geleide regering die weermag op 'n positiewe traject plaas en in die beste belang van die weermag en al ons inwoners. Ek bedank u.
Baie dankie. Honorable Mentor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, earlier on, you cited that you are a very proud African today and you are a proud South African too. I'm standing here not being a proud South African because today we wake up every day to a woman raped, abused, or killed. And today the EFF is sending out a message through the Commander-in-Chief to all men out there: stop killing, stop abusing, and stop raping women and children. The Economic Freedom Fighters reject Budget Vote 19 on defense and military veterans. The reason why we reject this budget is because of lack of vision, lack of commitment, and the corruption with these two departments. The Department of Defense is currently being defunded indirectly because the funds are being stolen and misused, and directly because this government is cutting spending. As a result, the budget allocated to general training capability has been decreased by 23.8%, and the budget allocated to operational intelligence decreased by 11.8%. This will have a negative impact on the quality of training of our soldiers that are getting meaning out there, and they are less prepared for battles, thus putting their lives in danger. Cutting costs on intelligence will also have a negative impact on the SANDF ability to carry out operations, while cutting costs on things that are vital for the SANDF to carry out its mandate. The department has increased the amount of money allocated to consultants and used for administration purposes. The Department of Military Veterans is even more of a mess than the Department of Defense and is in strong contention to be the worst-run department in the cabinet. By the end of third quarter of financial year that just ended, the department had only spent 49% of its budget. Despite there being military veterans who help liberate this country, but they go to bed hungry, they go to bed cold, they go to bed with no shelter. Some of other failures from the previous financial year include only 40% of legitimate invoices being paid against the 90% planned. 34 houses were supplied to veterans by the end of the third quarter, although 250 had been the target set. The Department of Military Veterans was able to establish a partner with only one private sector company or state organ, while the target was 14. I wonder who sits there and does what, but getting paid at the end of the month. On top of this, there is an issue of credibility of the military veterans database, which can and has been attributed into incompetence and mismanagement of the database. This is why in the last report to the committee, the department informed the committee that there were 3,900 military veterans on the database aged 35. I wonder who's 35 and was an MK veteran. Either the liberation movements were recruiting child soldiers, or more likely the database is being used to dispense assistance to those who don't qualify at the expense of those actually need it. Of the 1,000 houses which were meant to be allocated in the previous financial year, only 130 were allocated. And while training and skills development is vital to uplifting the lives of the veterans who have sacrificed their lives for the people of this country, the department is cutting the budget allocated to training and skills development by 7.3%. Perhaps this is because the deputy minister isn't interested in the livelihood of veterans, as he was never really one, but more interested in enriching himself and his comrades. And the other reason is, this is a department where a CFO had to leave against his own will, fearing for his life, because of
Chairperson.
officials that are hell-bent on issuing
Chairperson.
tenders to friends and maladministration.
Point of order.
Honorable member, can you take your seat? Yes, honorable member. What are rising?
The matter knows that in terms of Rule 852, the allegation she's making should be applied through a substitute motion.
Aha.
Will you please rule on that?
Honorable member, what allegations did the member
I don't know.
say?
She must say. What allegations?
No, honorable member, honorable Mete, I've requested you to take your seat. Honorable Mete, can you take your seat, please?
She's talking, she's alleging to the deputy minister that a certain amount of money was spent on other members of the MK.
Okay. Honorable member, honorable Mente, you have just made allegations towards the deputy minister.
That is not true. She must listen carefully and she must listen attentively. There is no amount of money allocated to my speech that is referring to a minister, deputy minister.
Okay, you may continue.
And the CFO of the military veterans had to leave the department against his own will, fearing for his life, because he had blown a whistle on maladministration, corruption, and tenders being issued against his own will to friends. And that, under the watch of the minister and the deputy minister, has never been solved up to date. This was the information disclosed to the SCOPA the other day when the department had visited the SCOPA. And you wonder why the department has never reached its target, not even half of it. It's because there is no stern message to officials that are corrupt in order to
Honorable
correct
Mente,
the
your time
department
is up.
and save our country through the defense.
Thank you, Honorable
very much.
Mente. Your time is up. I now call upon Honorable Tabekulu.
Thank you, Chairperson. I deliver these remarks on behalf of my colleague, Honorable Mwango MP. Chair, the capable and able defense of this nation, its territory integrity, people, resources, and international peacekeeping rest upon the shoulders of this department. Maintaining defense-ready capabilities in terms of our landward, air, and maritime defense must be prioritized. A steady decline in maintenance of military equipment does not border us well in this respect, and efforts to maintain and modernize critical defense capabilities must not be allowed to stagnate and thus adversely affect our state of military readiness. The IFP continues to support a national service platform for our youth. As we stated before, this would not only inculcate a sense of patriotism for our youth, but would also develop life skills such as discipline, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, which would augur well for these youth later on in life. Chairperson, The SNDF has a proud record of peacekeeping in the region and on the continent. Currently, we remain in the DRC in a training and support capacity, and in Mozambique in a support and counter marine piracy operation. Our peacekeepers must have every logistical advantage, Chair, specifically in terms of working equipment and technology. We continue to salute their efforts. Governments no longer own and control their country's critical national infrastructures. Critical infrastructures now crosses borders and maybe even under foreign control in some cases. Critical national infrastructures that in the past were owned by the government may now be privatized, while companies that may never have been under government control in the past have become critical national infrastructures. This situation requires imminent collaboration on critical national infrastructures defense in order to prevent or at least minimize the effect of cyber warfare attacks. It is necessary to have a coordinated approach in dealing with cyber crime and to have a coordinated cyber defense strategy in place. The SNDF itself does not have the capacity and capability to defend and ward off a cyber warfare attack. Interventions to address cyber crime require a coordinated approach and partnership between the private sector, academia, government, and civil society. Chairperson, there is one defense force in South Africa, the SANDF. Any subsidiary defense force is a private army, and for a government party to have an army is a cause for grave concern. We accordingly call for the full disbandment of Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association, MKMVA. Chairperson, our military veterans, or more accurately, Umkhonto weSizwe, were once again in the news when they bravely defended Luthuli House from peaceful protest march against President Zuma that was occurring kilometers away. Unfortunately, one opposition protester and a member of the public did wander erroneously onto their hallowed ground, and although unarmed, he was mercilessly stoned, beaten, and by the brave veterans. Umasine sofuna ukuba izwe libe yizwe akufanele sibe nembutho
Mhlonishwa, ucebe kakhulu.
isakhiwo
Isikhathi sakho
sombuso.
siphelile.
Ngiyathokoza sir.
Sibonge kakhulu. I now call upon Honorable Mncwabe.
Chairperson, Honorable Chair of the House, the Speaker of the Assembly, the Minister, Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, the leadership of the Defence Force, and all struggling veterans present. The stated primary mandate of the Department of Defence is to defend and protect the country, its territorial integrity and its people in accordance with the Constitution and the principles of the international law. In addition, the department has the task of aligning its operations with several of the key objectives of the NDP, amongst others to contribute to youth unemployment reduction, providing assistance in disaster aid and disaster relief, combating piracy and strengthening South Africa's research and development capacity. To execute this mandate, the Department of Defence and Military Veterans received a total allocation of 48.619 billion for the period 2017-2018 financial year, increasing marginally from 47.237 billion rand allocated for 2016-17. Noteworthy is that the spending in the different programs shows that the majority of the programs have a reduced allocation in real terms. The exceptions being the maritime and landward defense programs. Chair, the NFP accepts that budgetary constraints have to be taken into consideration, but we are concerned about the effect of the 10.56% decrease in the allocation for the air defense program and its effect on our air defense capacity. We are, however, encouraged by the reduction in the administration program, which at 5.38 billion rand accounts for close to 11% of the department's budget yet. At the same time, we believe that the allocation for this program remains disproportionately high. We would also like to have seen an increase in the defense intelligence program, particularly so since this program is tasked with developing cyber safety and security-related matters, which will become increasingly important as technology advances. The report of the Portfolio Committee contains several observations and recommendations which we support. We share in the concern about the overspending on employee salaries, the urgent need to facilitate finances for the much delayed defense review, and a call for clarity on the numerous problems related to military health program, and in particular, the seeming lack of capacity to provide many of the health services. The NFP is disappointed that the Arms Corps, despite being nominally self-efficient, is expected to make a net loss of 25.5 million for the current financial year, largely as a result of 39.6 million loss expected of its dockyard program. The sooner this program is transferred to Denel, the better. The NFP supports this program, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mwabe. I call upon the Deputy Minister.
Honorable House Chair, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, Honorable Members, the Secretary of Defense, Chief of the SANDF, the Acting Director General of DMV, members of Plenary Defense Staff Council, officials of the DMV, the guests. Today, I stand before you to support the budget of the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula. My task is also to illustrate the budget of the Military Veterans Department and give Parliament a brief on the achievements, challenges, and how we plan to resolve them. Immensely challenges of those who fought and sacrificed for the democracy we all enjoy today. This year, as the Honorable Mapisa Ngakula indicated, this objective has been allocated 622.1 million. In one's presentation on the support of the Honorable Minister Mapisa Ngakula and to illustrate the DMV budget, one will cast his gaze a bit on the history of our struggle and reflect on the first units of the fading lights of that generation. One talks here of the Luthuli detachment. It was the first Umkhonto Wesizwe unit that, alongside Zebra forces, confronted the Rhodesian colonialist regime. That campaign ensured that the embers of freedom in our region were ignited to cause an uproar of liberation that ultimately served to mobilize the masses and inspired the people to free themselves, led by the National Liberation Movement. Therefore, I dedicate this presentation to the heroes and heroines of the Luthuli detachment of the historical glorious People's Army, Umkhonto Wesizwe. This is the 50th anniversary of the Wankisi Polilo campaign, which was a beacon to the armed struggle, whereby the then oppressed of our country were able to face the oppressors toe to toe with modern weapons of war. We recall the names of Chris Hani, Flag Bishielo, Basil February, Major General Pito, amongst them, those who fought and stood firm leading that campaign. In honoring those who fought for freedom by alleviating their plight and seeing to it that they taste the fruits of freedom, we need to accelerate the benefits of military veterans. It is our considered opinion that these benefits must accrue first to those who are at the twilight of their lives, and importantly, those who fought on the side of the liberation forces. This is because they never benefited from any pensions or salaries. They were volunteers who sacrificed for our freedom. Honorable Chairperson, the task of addressing the needs of military veterans is huge and complex, and the money allocated could just not be enough. However, beyond the inadequacy of the allocated budget, we also have to deal with firming and streamlining our systems such that the benefits reach credible military veterans. This means we must prioritize their needs and while ensuring that what we do also fits into the National Development Plan, which must be the platform for growing our economy. With this approach, we hope to make our contribution in the development of our economy, without which we cannot even start to talk about the benefits of military veterans and their beneficiaries. House Chair, the expenditure of our budget allocation has improved considerably this year in comparison to the earlier years. In 2016-17 financial year, we spent 85% in comparison with 59% in 2015-16. To this extent, the DMV Education Support Program has been allocated 108 million. In 2014, the education support of the DMV was accessed by only about 645 beneficiaries. Today, the number of beneficiaries in this program stands to benefit more than 7,212. In this number, military veterans are participants as well as their children. This benefit has created a beautiful program for us. It challenges our system as well as the budget. Since 2014, this program has produced 74 tertiary graduates in various disciplines from almost provinces in our country. In the public gallery, we have some of those who benefited present. May they please stand up. There you are. Thank you. The Health and Wellness Program has been allocated 52 million. This program is difficult yet very critical given the physical, emotional, and psychological condition of military veterans as people who have encountered severe stress in their occupation as soldiers. Within the context of this program, 15,740 were impacted upon by this program. It needs creative thinking on how to optimize the budget to cover the length and breadth of our country where military veterans are located. Currently, we use the budget to enable the military veterans to access military health facilities. We are still investigating various possibilities to broaden this access. The housing benefit has been allocated 73.2 million. Housing is a critical need for veterans, yet the DMV does not have a developer status. This benefit needs a combined approach with the Department of Human Settlements, provincial and local authorities. So far, under very difficult conditions, we have delivered 130 houses nationwide. We support the Minister of Human Settlements, Honorable Lindiwe Sisulu, in her initiatives to accelerate military veterans' housing. We have also devised bond rescue, in which we save the houses of those military veterans who qualify for housing, but after buying them, cannot cope with the bond payments. We rescue them only up to the amount they qualify for as the base amount of our housing cost. Since its inception in 2015, this aspect of the housing program has saved 114 military veterans' houses. On social relief of distress, we have allocated 24 million. This is a new program which did not exist before 2014. It is a special focus on those military veterans who are largely below the poverty datum line and in need of immediate help to at least survive on day-to-day basis. In the last year, this special intervention assisted 2,243 who on a monthly basis received a grant to purchase the necessary groceries. This form of relief is strictly monitored and can only be accessed until benefiting military veterans have been assisted to be self-sufficient. We hold that the DMV, in partnership with other relevant departments and the private sector, must come together to find sustainable ways to ensure that military veterans never fall through the net and find themselves in such a situation of grinding poverty. The compensation of injuries, 161 military veterans have benefited to date. This is a benefit written into the Military Veterans Act of 2011 and started to be rolled out in 2015. The Castle Control Board, the DMV, has played a critical role in the commemoration of the 350th year of the existence of the Cape Castle. This is an enduring symbol of our more than 3 centuries of our colonization and racist apartheid oppression. The castle is in the process of being turned into a center of memory. The Military Veterans Act of 2011, the DMV has started the process of amending the Military Veterans Act 18 of 2011 to ensure that it is properly aligned within the context of the Constitution of the Republic and the deepening needs of military veterans. May I thank the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, my party, the African National Congress, the colleagues in my office, and the Department of Military Veterans for the steadfast support they have given me since I was honored by the President of the Republic, Honorable Jacob Gedlehlekisa Zuma, to serve in this position of responsibility. I'm
Deputy
truly
Minister,
humbled.
your time is.
Thank you. I support the budget.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Ngibize umhlonishwa wolomisa.
Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Honorable Members, siyavuyisana nawe mama, and yaboma wasinda ngoba busuku be-reshuffle. Qobe. The UDM supports the budget number 19. As we celebrate the Africa Day, we are reminded of the important role that is being played by our soldiers in keeping peace in our continent. I am certain that their contribution will one day make Africa a continent for all its people and the world over. In the context of my responsibility in the Defense Force Service Commission, I invite the Honorable Minister and the Joint Standing Committee on Defense to appreciate that the Defense Force Service Commission continue to express its support for the funding of the implementation of the Defense Review of 2015. Although the country is not at war, the South African Defense Force must be appropriately funded to fulfill its constitutional mandate. Notwithstanding the competing social needs of, amongst others, the health, education, there is a critical need for additional funding to the SANDF in order to fulfill its regional and continental obligations as a multilateral player to advance foreign policy. The requisite funding of the Commission's recommendation with regard to the model to de-link salary from rank will not only improve service conditions of approximately 8,894 SANDF members stagnated at lower ranks, but will serve as a fundamental building block to eventually roll out the envisaged unique salary dispensation for the men and women in uniform. It is of strategic value for the Minister and Defense Force Service Commission to hold bilateral meetings regularly to create opportunity for the Commission to provide progress report in terms of its mandate and to equally receive regular feedback from the Honorable Minister. Chairperson, the effectiveness of our soldiers in the peacekeeping missions can be compromised by the quality of the equipment they are using. When the Commission visited Congo, it was exposed to equipment whose quality is extremely poor. The UN would, instead of compensating South Africa for its contribution, penalize it if something urgent is not done. The Minister needs to intervene urgently on this matter. Lastly, the budgets of both the Military Ombudsman and the Defense Force Service Commission should be ring-fenced in order to ensure that they carry out their function optimally and without being subjected to internal delays within the department. Honorable Minister, will you also please brief this House on the progress made, if any, since you promised to review the powers of the Defence Force Service Commission. Lastly, military hospitals must also be given enough budget to carry their mandate. Both Lady Secretary, Lady Lape Western Cape, ziphelile mama. Enkosi.
Sibonga kakhulu umhlonishwa Olomisa. Honorable Groenewald, you may come to the podium.
Agbare voorsitter, ek wil begin om te sê dat daardie hardwerkende lede in die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag wat professioneel is, wat alles gee vir hulle land, wat dapper is, as ek op parade was sou ek gesê het presenteer geweer, saluut. Baie dankie. But, Honourable Chair, the Honourable Minister and some other members actually referred to cybercrime and the worries they have about cybercrime. I want to say that I am very, very worried about ordinary crime when it comes to the South African National Defence Force. Hoekom sê ek dit? Agbare voorsitter, ek het 'n vraag aan die agbare minister gevra wat sy amptelik geantwoord het oor diefstalle alreeds in die 2013, 14 en 14-15 finansiële jaar in terme van wapens wat gesteel word by die weermag, en haar antwoord was dat daar ongeveer 33.000 ronde ammunisie gesteel was in daardie tydperk, 18 vuurwapens wat gevaarlike wapens soos aanvalsgewere insluit. Ek het verlede jaar in hierdie begrotingsdebat verwys na die wagte in Bloemfontein, waar misdadigers hulle met messe oorval het, terwyl hulle met vuurwapens en lewendige ammunisie moet wag staan, maar hulle slaap. Kom ons gaan kyk wat het nou onlangs gebeur by die vlootbasis. Agbare minister, hoe kan dit wees dat misdadigers inbreek, 72 handgranate steel, 'n aanvalsgeweer of 2 vat, en net eenvoudig wegkom daarmee? Besef u wat 72 handgranate kan veroorsaak? Ons sien wat gebeur in die wêreld as ons praat van terrorisme en ontploffings tussen mense. Besef u die implikasies van 72 handgranate? Kom ek gaan verder. By die ammunisiedepot in Jan Kempdorp is daar misdadigers wat vir 2 weke langs die grensdraad gaan kamp. Hulle grou 'n gat onder die drade en vir 'n paar weke steel hulle kabels binne in die ammunisiedepot. Terwyl een van die misdadigers se pa werk binne in die ammunisiedepot. Wat het ons gesien gebeur nou in Khayelitsha? Waar misdadigers net eenvoudig kom 'n militêre basis eintlik aanval en dan hulle wapens steel. Dit beteken dat die weermag dwing geen gesag af by misdadigers nie. Misdadigers is nie meer skrikkerig vir die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag nie. En ek wil vir u sê, agbare minister, as dit die toestand is van jou weermag in jou land, dan het jy respek verloor. En dan het ons 'n ernstige probleem. En ek het vir u gesê, die probleem is dissipline. 'n Weermag kan nie funksioneer sonder dissipline nie. Ek het gewaarsku dat daar opgetree moet word. Ek het gevra, wat het geword van die wagte wat in die slaap was? Ja, hulle is aangespreek. Hulle moes ontslaan gewees het. En ek wil vandag vir u sê, die swak dissipline, die swak bestuur in die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag is tans van so 'n aard dat dit bydra tot die misdaad in Suid-Afrika wat 'n klad is op die naam van die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale weermag. Ek dank u.
Thank you very much, Honorable Groenewald. Honorable Dambuza.
Chairperson, the honorable members of parliament, Minister Mapisa Ngagula, Deputy Minister Mapatwe, ministers and deputy ministers present, Chief of Defense and Defense Secretariat, Acting Director General, Military Veterans, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. First of all, I would like to say the ukhongolose uyaluxhasa oluhlahlo lwabiwomali kuba sikholelwa ukuba luzokwazi ukuphuhlisa izinga lezokhuseleko apha kweli lizwe lethu nakwilizwe iAfrika yonkana. In the build-up to a democratic South Africa, the ANC sought to create legitimate security institutions. This is spelled out in its ready-to-govern document. For decades, the apartheid regime relied on its intimidating police, defense, and the intelligence structures to maintain the system of apartheid and to suppress popular resistance to that system. It is for this reason the African National Congress committed itself to a new approach to security in a democratic South Africa, further committed itself to a new defense force. Chairperson, the core function of the Department of Defense is to defend and protect the Republic of South Africa, its territorial integrity, and its people, in accordance with the Constitution and the principles of international law, regulating the use of force. His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, in his 2017-18 State of the Nation address, reiterated that the South African Defence Force's role in continental peacekeeping efforts. It can therefore be expected that the South African National Defence Force peacekeeping mission in Africa will continue over the medium and long term. Honorable members, outcome 3 of the South Africa's long-term vision 2030 directs the government that all people in South Africa are and feel safe by ensuring that Africa's borders are effectively defended, protected, secured, and well managed. The department will contribute to this outcome through its well-planned programs, which include, amongst others, Force Employment Program. The obligation on Defence Force to contribute to socio-economic development invariably leads to the Defence Force being, as and when it is necessary, called upon to cooperate with the police service in time of turmoil. The Force Employment Program constitutes 7.58% of the defense budget and is responsible for the provision and employment of defense capabilities to conduct operations. Given that it includes peace support and anti-piracy operations and border safeguarding duties, it is imperative that this program should be funded accordingly. It is of great concern that the budget allocation to this program is on a decline, yet this program contributes to outcome 3. There is an overall real percentage decline of 3.64% with the local operations, scaled down most, and an increase in regional security. The deployment to the Democratic Republic of Congo as well as the Mozambique Channel will continue. A total of 4.1 billion is budgeted for this deployment in the medium term for their activities. The DOD plans to deploy 15 landward sub-units instead of 22 on South Africa's borders with Zimbabwe, Swaziland, Lesotho, Mozambique, Botswana, and Namibia. 3 billion is budgeted for border safeguarding in the medium term in support of the People Sub-Program in Force Employment Program. Furthermore, a reduction in the reserve force man-hours for 2017-18 has been observed, and this may negatively affect border safeguarding operations. The only major increase in terms of allocation relates to a 12.69% real increase for the regional security sub-program. This is of interest given that the South African National Defence Force currently has less regional deployments following its withdrawal from the UNAU mission to Darfur. However, these funds will focus on existing missions. Landward Defence Program. The Defence Force assumed full responsibility for land, air, and maritime border safeguarding. Landward Defence Program is the largest of all defence programs, mostly due to its dependence on a large personnel configuration. This program accounts to the large portion, being 34% of the entire budget of defence. The ANC welcomes a substantive nominal increase in landward defence program compared to last year's allocation. The budget allocation for the current financial year reflects real increase in rent of 11.8 million, real change. This may relate to the strategic priority of replacing the infantry combat vehicles, developing a modern command and control system, a mobile water provisioning system, and a new geographic system. Efforts aiming to maintain and modernize defense capabilities are set to increase spending on departmental agencies and accounts by 2.7 billion over the medium term. Real percentage increase that should also be noted includes artillery capability sub-program at 248 million and the infantry capability sub-program at 1.9 billion over the medium term. The only noteworthy reduction is the planned reduction on the general training capability spending. This likely relates to the reduced military skills development program intake for 2017-18. The air defense program. Chairperson, it is important to note that in the aviation environment, challenges continue in areas such as airport controls at landing facilities, transit management, and in general security process regarding migration management at international airports. This program has been subjected to significant cuts in recent years. For example, 2014-15 was allocated 6.9 billion and was allocated to the air defense program, and this has decreased to 6.6%. However, the allocation for this program will increase significantly towards 2019-20, with additional 1.4 billion allocated for the procurement of new medium and light transport aircraft, precision-guided Air Force ammunition, and a new generation mobile communications capability. Chairperson, South African Air Force needs to manage this reduction carefully to ensure that skilled pilots are not lost and that the planned 5,000 force employment flying hours are achieved. Chairperson, masitsho ukuthi nakuba kunzima kwindaba ye-budget, kodwa zikhona izinto ezincomekayo ezenzekayo apha kwelisebe. One of the highlights of the program is the recent pass in the successful deployment of the South African National Defence MONUSCO Force Intervention Brigade of the UN in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The M3 rebel group was forced to withdraw from the Eastern DRC, and the South African National Defence Force was instrumental in this. In terms of border safeguarding, South African National Defence Force managed to deploy 13 sub-units in 2014-15. These were increased to 15 in 2015-16 and will remain the same until 2019. Significant successes have been attained by these units, including confiscation of illicit goods, drugs, weapons, stolen vehicles, and serving as a deterrent to illegal immigration. In terms of internal operations, 100% achieved was recorded in the past five financial years. This included successful support to SAPs where requested and much needed assistance to the public in terms of disaster. The landward defense has been able to provide highly trained infantry forces and other elements to both internal and external deployments. Despite significant financial challenges, this program continues to deliver on its mandate to provide the South African National Defence
Sibonge
with robust
kakhulu,
land-wide
Mhlonishwa.
defense.
Your
The
time is
ANC
up.
supports the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Honorable Madisha.
Thank you. Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I'm going to ask a number of questions. Madam Minister, you account to the National Assembly, and it is the National Assembly that maintains oversight over the exercise of national executive authority. You, Madam Minister, as you are in the National Assembly, I am asking you here and now to account to this House, to explain the unconstitutional and unlawful deployment of soldiers in the parliamentary precinct during SONA. We don't need you to say what, rather that you will provide a report to the Speaker. You account to this House. Explain yourself. I want to say that all over, throughout, we have the policemen and policewomen, and these people are the persons who are taking charge of everything. Now, you want money, which inter alia will be dealing with this whole thing, and we therefore cannot simply agree. Secondly, Madam Minister, whilst South Africans face increasing unemployment and rising inequality, stagnating growth following the mismanagement of our economy by the ANC, and junk status following Mr. Zuma's irrational midnight cabinet reshuffle for corrupt ends, and we have a problem throughout our country. Our children cannot go to school because of that which you are doing. Reports point to a secret project, a project called Mweked, to reward our, or the, let me say, President of South Africa with a new multi-billion rand presidential aircraft, and that the deal is being kept secret because it's been tailored for the specific supplier. Governance in South Africa is based on openness, transparency, and accountability. You need to respond to these reports. If your intention is to proceed with this immoral purchase, you need to rationalize your intended action. Now, the other thing is the smuggling of Burundi national into South Africa. Madam Minister, your oath requires you to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and to obey, respect, and uphold the constitutional and all other laws of the Republic of our country. You preside over a significant portion of our national security services, the Defense Force. Our Constitution requires that our soldiers act in accordance with the Constitution and the law. And yet, you broke your oath of office and violated our immigration and defense laws when you smuggled into South Africa a Burundian woman who calls you, in code, Mami, using a state-owned jet. And so you want money so that we can pay. Now spin it whichever way you want. Obfuscate the truth. Let others take the fall.
Unfortunately,
but the fact
Honourable Member,
remains
your
that
time is up.
you no longer hold the ethical integrity to preside over our national
Thank you
defense.
very much, Honourable
Please
Madisha.
go. We can't accept this. Go down.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, I've been made aware that Honorable Swart is not in the House, so I will now call upon Honorable N.A. Minister to come to the podium.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament, our distinguished guests, and veterans in the gallery. The African National Congress, in its Ready to Govern document, sent out its 4 basic policy objectives. Among others, the ANC committed itself to encouraging the flourishing of the feeling that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, in promoting a common loyalty and pride in the country and creating a universal sense of freedom and security within its borders. The Ready to Govern document would not be a rigid blueprint document, but a basic guiding one, reflecting the position which the ANC was envisioning. In the election manifesto of 1994, the ANC committed itself to reforming the security force so as to reflect the national and gender character of our country. The commitment was that the force would be non-partisan, professional, uphold the Constitution, and respect human rights. This was a radically transformative move envisioned by the ANC, a direct contrast from the force employed by the belligerent apartheid government. It is this ANC that envisioned the South African National Defence Force we have today, a defence force whose core mandate is the protection of the country, its territorial integrity and people. The primary role, of course, being to defend South Africa against military aggression. The posture of the ANC in terms of peacekeeping mission is underpinned by the Freedom Charter's unequivocal call for South Africa to strive to maintain world peace and the settlement of all international disputes by negotiation and not war. The Freedom Charter further asserts that peace and friendship amongst all our people shall be secured by upholding the equal rights, opportunities, and status of all. The SANDF core mandate is the protection of the country, its territorial integrity, and its people. In this regard, the control of borders, air, landward, and maritime is of paramount importance. Peace and stability in a country contributes to the economic development of a country. The administration program executes the department's overall management, administration policy development. The objective and measures of this program are to develop an accountable defense administration that provides norms and standards for providing sound defense direction and advice, providing defense-related social responsibilities, developing consensus on defense, providing sound policy and administration, the provision of contingency-ready defense capabilities, and systematic monitoring and evaluation. This program accounts for 11% of the entire budget for defense. Despite different challenges faced over the past financial year, many of the various targets in the different sub-programs were achieved. It must be noted that there is a decrease in budget allocation in this program compared to the budget allocation over the last financial year, and considering inflation and population growth. The Maritime Defense Program has been allocated 9.85% of the entire defense budget. The main objective of this program is to defend South Africa and its maritime zones.
South Africa's national maritime interests include effective cooperation arrangements with neighboring states and territories within, beyond the region and continent. For the management of maritime domain and interest, oceans management, and good order at sea, maritime piracy poses a serious threat to both crew and property on the high seas. 50% of countries' GDP comes from trade, and South Africa, being a trading nation and within over 95% of its trade conducted by maritime trade. This program is crucial. Incidents of irregular and unreported fishing are also of great concern. Thus, this program plays an instrumental role in combating piracy and other illegal operations along the coast. This program provides combat-ready and supported maritime defense capabilities for the defense and protection of our country. These allocations are not just given to fight crime, violence, conflicts, and possible threats. They have an overarching role to contribute to peace and development. The increase in budget allocation is welcome. The effective nature of the maritime capability within our region is noticeable. In recent years, the maritime and naval power has become increasingly relevant both locally and abroad. South African Air Force and Navy capability need to be strengthened by this budget to ensure that it continues to play its vital role in the continent and the region. Injongo nenhloso ye-health support program ukuthi incedise futhi ilekelele amasosha ethu ukuthi ahlale enempilo enhle alungele ukusebenza avikele iningizimu Afrika yethu le esiyithandayo. Sikwazi ukuba namasotsha afit akulungele ukuthunywa noma yikuphi nasemazweni akude. Kuyisifiso nomsebenzi we-department ke ukuba namasotsha aphilile akulungele ukusebenza nokusivikela. Kanjalo nawo amasotsha anomsebenzi wokuthi nawo phela azigcine aphilile futhi ephephile. Njengesizwe angeke sivume ukuba nombutho wamasotsha agulayo nangenayo impilo enhle. In terms of the department performance, most of the targets were met. The performance indicator being the percentage availability of medical stock was not met. It is recommended that this be looked into in future. It must be noted that the repeated budget cuts in the defense budget may seriously hamper the SANDF's capability to defend our sovereignty and territory, which is a constitutional imperative in the future. We must commend the degree of loyalty and sense of patriotism of our soldiers to defend and enhance the interests of our democratic states in line with our constitution and the goal of the National Democratic Revolution. In conclusion, Chairperson, this is the year of our Honourable Isithalande, Member, Oliver Tambo. your time is up. Okay. The ANC pledges its support to the department and support this vote. We are proud of our past and confident of our future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nisi, Honorable Esau.
Honorable Chairperson, this Department of Military Veterans, continues to fail the majority of military veterans. This department underspent last year by 15% and the year by 40%, amounting to 324.6 million loss to the military veterans. Benefits and services lost to the military veterans. This department's performance was rated at 53%, 10 out of 19 targets reached. However, the salaries was 102.7%, an underperformance of 47%, and an over-expenditure on salaries on the other hand. And this is not only the case of last year. This year it will also increase the over-expenditure on salaries by 13.8%, and the following year by 22.3%, and then 31.5% in the outer year of the MTF, at the expense of benefits and services to military veterans. The vacancy rate in this department is 21%, 133 of 169 posts filled. However, this department employs 77 additional people, which amounts to 210 employees, and it fails to deliver on its mandate. But this is not strange, because the recruitment policy and the skills audit will be done now. It will still be implemented. So what has happened? Is it also strange that one of the high risks of this department is inadequately skilled and not dependable staff? Simply put, incompetent employees lacking requisite skills, experience, and knowledge to do the job. So this department continues on that trajectory. So what happened in the last 5 years? Is it something strange? No, it's not. And therefore this department is still not an independent department. The over-expenditure on education, a target last year was set at 4,000. The actual bursaries that were distributed was 7,202. And this year, there's 4,500 target, and the amount allocated of bursaries will be 8,700. Is this fiscal discipline? Is this how you manage and balance a budget if it's not at the expense or sacrifice of other benefits? The department's answer is simple. We take it upon ourselves to reprioritize. Healthcare, the same thing. On one hand, we say the provision of it will have a negative influence in order for the department to fulfill its mandate to the fullest. The department also says the budget remains insufficient to fully fund education support and healthcare services. And then it says that the amendment of the Military Veterans Act 18 of 2011 will play a significant and critical role with regard to the inclusion of the dependents of military veterans in all benefits. What is this balance, this balancing act? It must come at a certain price and expense of other benefits. How is it possible that you can include everything, everybody in everything, and you have limited or financial constraints? Besides this, there's also still the case that's outstanding of Zeal Health, which is a 200 million rand case against the department, which is a third of the budget currently. The impact of 2012-13 was disastrous. It considered this the worst performing department. And now the department states in its APP, this is a new indicator. This is not a new indicator, it's an old indicator. It's an old indicator. And this indicator, if we look at it, 37% of the budget is taken from the internal audit, 26% is taken from strategic planning, policy development, and monitoring and evaluation. Two critical sub-programs to ensure that there is internal controls, there are checks and balances, that you try and minimize fraud and corruption within the department. Those specific programs are undermined. And then the department admits by its own, it says, monitoring and evaluation is non-existent. And then it says, no, but we will strive to achieve in this year, level 3, which is the second highest on the impact score. Is this being realistic? And besides this, the supply chain management director and contract director will only be appointed this year. The SWOT analysis, contradictions, information to the public as a strength. On the other hand, it is a weakness, a threat, and also a main concern, inability to implement governance of info, communication, and technology. Contradictions, poor performance.
Please.
But of course, we know the high impact
Please
communication
conclude.
and marketing strategy continue to be elusive, like the call center. The contradictions is the E&E in the estimate and also in the APP. Lots of contradiction between amounts, figures, personnel, etc. that needs to be resolved. the demographics of the database speaks about 13 foreign people and 40,762 unknown people on the database.
Thank you very much.
In conclusion, we await the impact and effect of the turnaround strategy and the improvement plan. But remember, a sound, effective, and efficient
Thank
DA
you.
administration will
Thank
ensure
you.
freedom, fairness, and opportunity
Thank you, Mr.
for all
Brown.
veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Kamete is going to speak at his seat.
Thank you, Chairperson. First things first. Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, Nasiviwe Mapisa Ngagula, Deputy Minister, Honorable Kevin Mapote, General Shocker and all the generals, Secretary of Defense, our veterans who are our guests, especially all those from the non-statutory forces, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, and all our guests. I'm compelled, after the last speaker, to read this. This is a reading from John 8, verse 32. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We'll talk about this truth because as the ANC, that is why we stood. We stood for the truth from 1912 right up to 1994. As the ANC, we are humble in victory, and also we are humble in defeat. You talk about Ngotu, it's the democracy that we fought for. We are humble in defeat. I did say the ANC support this budget vote. I'll deal with some issues and then come to house cleaning. I'll deal with some issues on defense intelligence. Those that know this craft say information is the key. In fact, in war strategy terms, they say if you have all the information in a war, you will have won 50% of the war. Defense intelligence is a critical function that is used to support the planning, preparation, and execution of military operations. This assists in taking well-informed military decisions. This means that each of the combat services should be provided for in intelligence functions, namely intelligence collection, processing, and dissemination. Chairperson, we are happy and Minister that this division, there is some stability. General Nyembe, General Shocker are standing their ground on this issue. Chairperson, if our country were to maintain the stability we enjoy and we seek, we need to review the budget allocation of this department. That is why we say we need to have facts when we speak. Let's look at the global picture on the budgets per country. On USA, the budget for defense is $611 billion US dollars. That is 3.3% of the GDP. And that is why the US is always at war, mostly in Africa. China is 215 billion US dollars and Russia is 69 billion. Saudi Arabia is 63 and India is 55 billion. If you come closer to home, Angola has got 4.4% of the GDP. Morocco has got 3.3, Mauritania is 3%, Namibia 2.9, and Botswana 2.8. What is important is that our own country, South Africa, is at number 20 with 1.4% of the GDP. However, at some stage, just before 1994, from 1985 to 1989, the allocation of the defense budget was 28%. Because it had to oil the apartheid machinery. In short, we need to engage Treasury so that this allocation is improved. Now, these are facts. On DMV, my colleague has just spoken on DMV. There's one distincting factor with DMV, is one department that is not an implementing agent, that relies on other departments for service delivery, just like housing. Hence, the challenges that they would have. Whilst we appreciate the existence of this department and the benefits it must roll out to our veterans, the mere fact that it depends on other departments to roll out services creates a challenge. It has done its best on education, health, and other social benefits, but there's a huge challenge on the provision of decent houses. Hence, then, the proposal of the committee is that the department must be given powers to implement so that they can roll out these services. The other challenge, Chairperson, is the issue of the database and the finalization of it. More especially for veterans from non-statutory forces. We engaged the department even just yesterday on this issue, and we raised some proposals. As it has been said, we can't believe that we would have veterans that are in the database that are between the ages of 28 and 35. So the concrete proposal we made to the department yesterday was finalize the database of the non-statutory forces because they are standard, it won't grow. So we hope to have progress. Under entities of this department, Chairperson, we pride ourselves with the excellent performance of the three entities: the Castle Control Board, the Office of the Ombuds, and AMSCO. The Castle of Good Hope is now becoming one of the big tourist attractions in the area. The Ombud now has a deputy and a female to achieve the 50-50%. And both these entities are doing very well with the little that they have. On the other hand, AMSCO is the only government entity that is doing well in many spheres, be it on radical economic transformation, on opportunities for our military veterans, or on education, or provision of bursaries and community involvement activities. AMSCO is no longer an entity that it was prior to 1994. Chairperson and Honorable Minister, the departments need to move with turbo speed on transformation, both economic and structural. The HDIs, particularly the black people, are not benefiting much from the department, and will be watching this space. One other issue, we've been talking about other issues. One other issue, in the 1980s, there were certain projects of defense that the Pras government undertook. There was a project that was called Project Kork Toreng, Tesh Tower, which had to deal with the nuclear weapons. Now today, when we talk of nuclear, some people in this house want us to believe that they know nothing about nuclear. There was Project Kinky, which was a war games for defense that was used to terrorize the township. There were major corporate funders of the apartheid regime from 1979 to 1993. There was the insurance giant, Sanlam. There was mining giant, Kenco. There was Volkas, now ABSA, and Sambu Bank. Whilst we talk of ABSA, at one stage we heard even the EFF that they would march to AMSCO and close it. But they were quiet after receiving about 9 million. We never heard anything about that. A number of foundations have been formed since 1959.
Point of order.
Even in 1959.
Honorable Gamet.
Bengisafuna ukwazi lo 9 million akhuluma ngayo othi wathola wane. Ukuphi? Ngoba kuyimanje nathi lasenkinga asiboni umsebenzi walomnyango wabo.
No. Siyabonga kakhulu Khawula, Honorable Khawula. A point of order is a procedural matter. It's not for explanation. Please, members, just ensure that Rule 99, 92, sub 1 to 6, we all understand. Because we can disturb the flow of debate on point of orders that are not point of orders. Honorable Kamete,
Thanks,
Honorable Kamete, please also conclude.
Thanks, Chair. The number of issues I wanted to touch on, more especially that they've asked about the 9 million will provide proof. The less said about the EFF, the better. It's one party who would say they are radical, they are far on the left, they are against the monopoly capital, but at the same time they give their votes to the very same parties that they claim they are monopoly capital. We are always ready, Chair, to comply with any other order given by any commander-in-chief. When Commander Oliver Tambo said, let us make South Africa ungovernable, we complied. When Comrade Madiba said, let us throw all our weapons at sea, we complied. There are things, the issue about notice, there are things, for instance, we can't have parties like DA saying the people must vote in their conscience, but when their own councillor votes in his own conscience, they dismiss that councillor. We can't have members in this house who would say we still need a vote to come back.
Thank you, Honorable
The
Kamete.
ANC supports the party.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Defense, Military Veterans, please conclude the debate.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, honorable members. Let me start by expressing a word of appreciation to all members who participated in this debate. Thank you for your constructive criticism, and thank you for your valuable inputs you have made. I want to express a word of appreciation to the committee members led by Stan, Comrade Stan there, and thank you very much, colleagues, for your leadership. Thank you to the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, to the SecDef and the PDSC, to the Department of Military Veterans led by the Acting DG, Max Ozinski. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Defence Service Commission. This is a very unique dispensation. It's a new dispensation to the Republic of South Africa, which you have, and I'm sure you appreciate that at times it can be very strenuous. You're putting forward recommendations, and at times you feel that we're not moving fast enough, but we're trying our best. We're listening to you, and we really value your immense input. So thank you, General, but I do want to say that, General, as we talk about powers of the DFSC, assist us, the DFSC should actually assist us to draft so that we understand the exact areas. Just help me with that. Meneer Groenewald, honorable member, you are right to raise issues of discipline. Truth of the matter, we have a military discipline bill which is still with Parliament. We wish you could speed up that process, colleagues, so that we can empower the Chief of the South African National Defence Force to deal with issues of ill discipline, thereby enhance command and control in the Defence Force. Honorable Madisha, I just want to say next time, prepare a speech which is relevant to the budget vote, because for now I'm unable, I could respond to the issues you have raised. However, this has nothing with the debate we are about. But just to say, Chair, that one time I did say that we should close the bar, because the biggest problem is that there are very high levels of intoxication in this house at times. Honorable Mente, thank you very much. Thank you very much for raising the issue, and we should all continue in our little corners to raise the issues of abuse against women. I believe that this should not be tolerated, but it doesn't make us less of South Africans and Africans. I think that those women and children who continue to be abused by their partners, and at times by strangers, yes, but most of the time by people close to us, people we know, it doesn't make them less of human beings. We should still say they should be proud of being who they are. However, they have been let down by our society. Honorable Esau, I understood the issues you have raised. However, I have a question which I would like to raise with you, which is, when you had, for instance, in the case of support, educational support, you have 4,500 beneficiaries, dependents, who come forward for educational support, and that's what we provided for in 2016. Come 2017, the numbers it increases to plus minus 8,000. In the situation we find ourselves with the Deputy Minister, what would you do? Would you turn them back and say, no, there is no money, there is no education support? It is very difficult. It is true that we shouldn't use money which we do not have in terms of PMFA. However, on the other hand, you think we're not planning? It's about that matter I've just raised. That matter which I've just raised. That corner at the back there. Now, Honorable Esau, thank you very much I'm just saying that there's an issue. The issue is, what do you do when young children, when the beneficiaries who are dependents of military veterans literally threaten to toy at head office because they expect you, and you did not anticipate, by the way, the numbers to increase from 4,000 to 500 to 800. In other words, it's almost 100% rise in the numbers of beneficiaries. Those are some of the challenges which we have. You've raised, they are not threatening because they have no reason not to do so. We've stuck up with you for the past 15 years in this parliament. All you do is to scream at the corner there.
Honorable Minister, please conclude.
Thank you very much. Honorable Gamede, we've taken note of the comments you made, and I do want to say that, and I'm sure you are aware, as part of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, that one of the decisions which we have taken now is we've identified site for the building of the head office of Defense Intelligence, which is a matter which has been concerning you for a long time, and we are happy to report that to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Honorable members, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for your participation in this debate, and thank our honored guests for coming. Members are reminded that the debate on economic development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the National Assembly chamber. The debate on social development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the Order Assembly chamber. And a debate on environmental affairs budget vote will take place in 16:15 in committee room E249. That honorable member conclude the debate and the business of this mini plenary. The plenary is now rise. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Bonsinger.